Well, most of you aren't training, so let's talk about some interesting stuff that's going on. Some observations I've seen. My name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. I'm a black belt under Master Pedro Sauer, and you're watching Professor's Corner. For those of you who don't know me, I did spend some time in the military. I was a reservist and deployed to Iraq for roughly 15 months. From 2003 through 2004. And during that time, there were some interesting experiences. Now, before I go on, I want to make it very clear. I was no one special there. I wasn't kicking down doors. I wasn't doing a lot of saving lives. I wasn't doing a lot of taking lives. So my experiences there, as far as a war experience can be, were relatively mundane. Some mortar fire, artillery rounds came in, a couple very small IED situations, things like that. But I want to talk to you about my first 10 minutes, maybe it was 20, after we entered from the border of Kuwait into Iraq. And I want to kind of relate that not only to the situation that I see the United States and a lot of the people around me in right now, but also how that applies to Jiu-Jitsu and how you can make your Jiu-Jitsu better from understanding this type of situation. So there's a lot of details I'm not allowed to get into, like exactly how we entered, that kind of thing, but we were in a convoy. It wasn't hard to find us. It wasn't hard to spot us. We weren't like, Navy SEALs, like sneaking in, crawling over the border or anything, right? We were a quartermaster unit. We had many, many, many trucks in a convoy driving through. Now, one of the things that we unfortunately had to face when we were over there was that the insurgents or the people who wanted to hurt us would, at the time, had taken to pushing children into the road to get the convoy to stop so that it could then be attacked. That meant that our standing orders were not to stop for anything in the road. Now, you can make your own decisions on who you feel is right and who you feel is wrong in that situation, but those were the orders, and that's how they were carried forth. Our first 5 minutes into Iraq, we literally crossed the border off of this sand, not a road, just through the sand, came up onto a hardball road that was in the middle of this very small village, and as we traveled through this village, someone pushed their kid into the road, and we hit him. And when I say we, it wasn't me, but that doesn't matter. I was part of that unit, right? We hit him and kept moving. So whether it was an accident that this child ended up being in the road or a purposeful act, I'll never know. Point is, he was there, got hit. We came through this village and then came up onto what could best be described as a 4-lane highway, just like you would see here in the States. Infrastructure there was really strange. From my perspective, it was like dirt, sand villages with like makeshift homes, not like well-constructed homes. And then, like this crazy level of infrastructure as well, like big 4-lane highways and with on-ramps and off-ramps. It was a really unique thing to see. Back to the story. So we get onto this highway and we're on it for about 2 minutes, if that. And all of a sudden, I hear an extremely loud explosion. Our convoy has to come to a halt. And at the time when it came to a halt, there were the way our SOP was, you would pull over to the side of the road. Everybody would get out of the vehicle in order to pull force security and determine what the situation was. So we had 360-degree security on our vehicles and on the convoy and everything we were carrying. And I remember the lieutenant coming down the way, and I said, "LT, that was an explosion." He goes, "Oh, no, I think a tire just went out." I said, "That was an explosion." And I was an NCO at the time, and the LT was a butter bar, for if you don't know who that is. That means he was much newer than I was. No, that was definitely an explosion. I said, I highly recommend you go check that out. So he went up, talked to the commander. Turned out it was an explosion, which was unusual because at the time we had been trained that the freeways and roads were safe because dirt is where you hide things like mines. So as long as you're on freeway and out of the sand, you're safe. Well, this was the most early start of the whole IED thing, which got even worse after we left. But the point was, it was some sort of IED. They were these little round devices, and the reason I know that is because a British convoy, once we pulled over, the rest of the SOP, to back up a little bit, was not to allow any traffic to come through our area. So we were diverting traffic to the other side of the freeway and saying, go that way to get around us. Like, we weren't letting anybody come in. Well, a British convoy came in, and we allowed them to go through because they were also military. And I'll never forget, I look up, and about, I don't know, 3-4 meters up, there's this little round thing kind of rolling on the ground. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And my friend, who I'll leave unnamed, starts walking toward it. I'm like, no, get back. And then the British convoy rolls over it, and boom, it explodes. The shrapnel breaks just over top my friend's head, smashes through the window there. And the British convoy then moves up and pulls over. And we're like, that's it. No one else is getting through here. And there's a unique thing that starts to happen to you when you realize it. You know, it's easy to think, oh, well, these are soldiers. They know how to fight. They know, they understand war. Nobody understands it till you're in it. Nobody understands it. Like, you can read about it, you can get it, you can fathom it, but you can't understand it until you're there. And you can't understand what happens to your brain in those types of situations. Within another 3 minutes, a foreign national, which is what we would call people who lived there, comes driving up and stops the vehicle near the rear of our convoy and gets out of his vehicle, and he's just pointing. And of course, we don't speak Arabic, and he clearly doesn't speak English. And we're saying, go around. We're pointing to the other side of the road. And he starts disrobing. And I can tell that, you say you can tell, but it seemed to me that this person was very afraid. It didn't seem the actions of hostility, rather the actions of trying to make us understand. I think what he was saying was, I don't have any bombs, check me out. You know what I mean? Like, he's saying, I'm safe, I'm not trying to hurt you. That's what I believed. However, I don't speak his language. I don't know what he's doing. We're just saying stop. And he started pulling clothes off and opening doors on his vehicle. Now, again, what I feel he's doing is saying, hey, look, check it out. There's nothing here. But what we know has just happened is we've hit an IED. Our convoy is being repaired. Fortunately, it was a small one, so it only took out some of the undercarriage. Like I said, it was the very beginning. The IEDs were not nearly as sophisticated at this point. It was a smaller explosion. It took out some of the undercarriage on the 5-ton vehicle, and it was being repaired. But then this man starts to go toward his hood, and he's going to lift the hood of his car. And this is the moment where myself, another NCO who was responsible for the rear security, because I was toward the rear, but I wasn't at the back. He was responsible for rear force security, and 3 other soldiers all train our weapons on him. We're trying to be relatively non-hostile at this point. I mean, as relatively non-hostile as a hostile force in your country can be. And all of a sudden, boom, weapons right on this guy. It was at that moment that I felt for the first time an anger that I had never felt before. An anger that if this man touched the hood of his car, I was going to kill him. And it's an interesting feeling, is all I can say. Now, how's that relate to what we're going through now? For many of you, for many people in this country, this is the first time you've ever been in a very uncontrollable, difficult situation. And this, of course, doesn't compare to war. It's not the same, but it is challenging in very similar ways. And so I'm seeing a lot of people being afraid. I'm seeing a lot of people being angry. I'm seeing a lot of people being rude or reserved. And I'm going to tell you that all of these things that you're seeing are fight or flight responses. This is how people are learning to deal with difficulty and major challenge in their lives. Some people will rise above it and become great leaders. Some people will just keep going as though nothing's happening. They'll pretend nothing's happening and they'll ignore it all. Some people will shelter and be very afraid. They'll buy all the toilet paper. They'll buy all the sanitizer. And I've said before, don't get angry with these people. Do your best to just be understanding. But I think it's important that you understand why these things are happening. These are your fight or flight responses. These are your body saying, this is how I react in a crisis. I ignore it. I get mad at everybody around me. I start threatening people. I run away. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. How's this relate to Jiu-Jitsu? Well, if you've ever rolled that white belt spaz for the first time, or maybe you were, I can think of a time that it happened to me. I was at a Jiu-Jitsu camp, and I'm rolling super, super fluid with everybody. I literally wasn't trying to tap anybody. And I come across the one guy at the camp who's just trying to go ham on everybody. He wants to prove himself to everybody. So I'm flowing, and then all of a sudden he just, bam, puts on like a super hard darce and chokes, and I tap. And I remember looking at him, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I got very angry very quick. And he's like, what, you get mad because I tap you? And I was like, no, I'm mad because can you see that nobody else is rolling like this? Like, that's that immediate fight or flight response kicking in, right? For me, it tends to be one of anger. So whether it's in Jiu-Jitsu, whether it's in what's going on right now, whether it's at war, be very aware of what your fight or flight response is and understand that that's exactly what it is. And now, once you get it, it didn't take me long. I realized, oh, okay, I'm mad at this guy. Yeah, he went harder than everybody else was going, but I didn't need to go off on him, right? That was my immediate fight or flight response saying, hey, jerk, don't roll that way. Learn to temper that. Learn to realize when it's coming, see the signs of this coming, and it's going to help your jiu-jitsu be better. It's going to help your ability to deal with day-to-day life be better. And it's going to help you do better in situations like what are going on outside today. You know, I live in a state that's almost entirely in lockdown, and it's challenging. And I worry. You know, I'm a patriot at heart, so I worry about, you know, making sure that the freedoms that are being taken away are given back. I don't think they're trying to hurt anybody at this point. I think that they're doing what they think is right, and I get that, whether I agree or disagree with the specific measures being taken. The big thing is instead of getting angry at everybody, I know that that's my initial response, and I feel it. Like when my school got shut down, I was livid. I was pissed. How can they do this? How can they take away that? Like that was my immediate response in my brain. And I said, okay, whoa, back up. This isn't about you, right? And then I've learned to temper those things and take them down a notch. So I think that that's a good lesson that you could have, not only in jiu-jitsu, but in life and in the situation we're in now. And I hope that you find this video helpful. Do me a favor. Have you ever felt that kind of thing? Like where you're a little more angry than you normally are, where you're a little more frightened than you normally are, or whatever your response is, and then recognized it and then been able to get past it and make a smart move in spite of those feelings? By the way, the guy didn't get shot. He ended up backing off when 4 M16s got trained on him. He backed off. He got in his car. He drove the way we were telling him to go. So good news to the ending of that story as well. All right, my friends, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, yell at me. Tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. Talk to you guys later. Stay safe.